In this video, we will cover how to create a section view of the hub. So first thing that we want to do is make sure we have all the layers created that we're going to need. So let's do our layer properties. And I already have some created here, but there are a few that will be missing. So we will need a center line or centers, dimensions we'll use for our next video, hidden lines, a section layer, and our title block layer is from our Architectural D paper space here. So we need a construction layer. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the new option. And this should be a review on how to create layers. So we'll create construction. We'll change the layer color from green to gray, and we'll leave it as a continuous line. We'll also need a new layer called cutting plane. And this is going to be a line that we create to show where our section view is created from. And let's go ahead and set that to magenta. And we need to change the line type from continuous to phantom. If you're not sure how to load your line types, just go down here to load and determine which line type you need, select it, and then it'll be listed here. So let's go ahead and choose phantom. All right, so now we're all set. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and change to my construction layer to be able to create this side view. And I have this view right over here just to give us the widths of each one of these cylinders, because you already have all the dimensions you needed to create the part from last week. So I'm going to use, I don't prefer to use the construction line that goes all the way across your screen. And that's just my personal preference. You can use it if you want, but I like to just grab a line and drag it over. So each item that you see in your front view needs to be shown in your side view. And let's go ahead, we'll hold off on adding the small circles until we get our larger circles done. So let's go ahead and just do the larger ones. And this is, again, should be review. So from each quadrant, we're going to drag our cursor over. So to create your section view, it actually isn't anything different than creating your multiple views, except for the fact that we're going to change some of the line types to show what the object looks like from the interior. All right, so let's go ahead. We've got all these on. And again, we're just holding off on the small holes. We'll add those in a minute. So we'll change to our object layer. And looking at my part, again, if you look at a cylinder from the side, it's going to look rectangular. So I'm just going to go ahead and select my line, go ahead and drag straight down. Let's get it lined up with the height. And it looks like our width is 3 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my 3 millimeters. And now I have to determine how far up I need to go. My guess is that should not be 3 millimeters. I bet it's supposed to be 6. So we'll add another one there. That looks a little better. Okay, so from here, we now run into this cylinder here. So we're actually just going to go ahead and go all the way up and over. And then we'll choose our line command again. There's our larger cylinder. And the larger cylinder has a height of 25 millimeters. And it goes all the way over to here. Go. And our smaller cylinder here, we'll go ahead and start our line here. And it has a height of 10 millimeters. And then our circle right here, this is a hole that goes through the cylinders. So we need to change to our hidden lines. And again, that's because we don't see that hole from our side view, but we know that it's there. So it's going to go all the way through. Oops, doesn't look like I got it all the way through. I could just select it and drag my cursor to the right till it is placed here. So now let's go ahead and put in our construction lines. Let's put our holes in. And we're only going to show the two lines, the two holes at the top and bottom. We're not going to show each one of these, and you'll see why here when we create our section view. And imagine it would be quite cluttered on here if we did show those views. And again, that's going to be a hidden line. And then we'll add our center lines here in a moment. Now you can add your construction line to help you put your center line in, but what I'm going to do is just a quick little shortcut. I'm going to use my line command. And again, I'm not touching this. I'm just using that object snap option to be able to get a nice clean line all the way through at the center without having to go through and add a construction line. Line it up. And of course, I like to have my lines the same length. So we'll do the same thing here. There we go. And at this point, we can go ahead and turn our construction layer off so that we don't see it. I don't like to erase the construction line because then if I look at my part and I feel like I'm missing something, if I turn my construction lines back on, it's a lot easier to see if by chance I am. I'm going to move this whole drawing just a tad bit closer. There we go, to my front view. All right, so at this point, you should feel comfortable with where you're at because we've done this several times creating these multi-view drawings. One thing we do want to notice is look at our line type. We probably want to come in here and adjust our line type scale. And it looks like it's set at 4. I actually set it at 8. And that way we get a little better gapping between our lines there, a little bit cleaner. So at this point, if we were not creating a section view, we would be done. But since we are going to create a section view, we have to determine what type of section view we want to create. So since we have this side view, and I want to show all of this information as if I cut through this part from top to bottom and then look at one view. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my cutting plane, go to my line. I'm just going to line it up with my center. So I'm going to cut right here through the center. Start a little bit outside my item or my part. Again, continue down and then just hit enter. So what we're looking at is imagine taking this and putting a line on this part and taking out to a bandsaw and cutting it in half and removing this right layer or right side and looking just at that left side. That's exactly what we're doing when we create a section view. So I need to add some arrows to show what side we're looking at. So I'm going to go to my leader line option. I'm going to right click and we're going to go to options first, and we want to deal with the landing. So when you're looking at a leader line, actually, let's just draw one real quick. If you look at this real close, and it looks to me like we need to change the, modify the size of it. You have here, you have this landing here. We don't want that horizontal line for on our view. So we'll actually be getting rid of that. But first, we're going to go ahead and modify our leader. So we'll just come in here and you can do a quick modify. And it looks to me like we need to look at the overall scale. So here's our scale. We could go ahead and do annotative like we did before, but I'm thinking that maybe I started this on an inch drawing instead of a metric, so that won't work for us. So we're just going to increase the size here of our leader line. Let's make sure it's a little bit cleaner. Yep, there we go. Now, the reason I chose 25 because I am on an inch drawing, so 25.4 millimeters equals 1 inch. So if I make the scale 25 times larger, it'll be the right scale for my leader line. So that is my fault. Hopefully you guys started yours on a metric drawing with metric defaults. So let's go back to our leader line. I'm going to go ahead and right click and do my options. I'm going to select leader landing, and we don't want a leader landing. So we'll select no, and then we'll exit our options. And then we're going to go ahead and right click one more time. And we want to do, notice it says leader arrowhead first. So if I choose this and I choose this endpoint, see how the arrow is first? And we don't want that. So we actually want to come in here. And again, we'll go back to our options and take our leader landing off. We want to right click leader landing first. So if that is your option, if I select here, my arrow will be second. Okay. Looks like it didn't take off my leader landing on that one, but that's okay. We'll just trim it up. Okay, let's just trim that little excess off. Or we'll just move it here. There we go. And then instead of having to go through the process of adding another leader line, I'm just going to go ahead and just copy this one and paste it here at the bottom. So again, this is like we're cutting this part in half. We're getting rid of the right side and just looking what's left. So if we have cut through here, this line right here, let's go ahead and put our construction lines on. This line right here, since we're not going through this object anymore, we'll actually see that edge of the circle. Same thing here on this side, as well as this side again, so we'll see those edge marks of our circles now, of our holes. So let's go ahead and turn that back off. So all of our hidden lines, we know we're going to see as a solid line. So we can select all of our hidden lines, come up here and go ahead and change them to an object line. All right, so there are some other things that we have to get rid of. So as we come through and we cut through this piece, we no longer see this part of our line. So we need to trim up this line here and this line here as well. Because we don't see that edge anymore. We don't see this edge because we're cutting through our part. And this is what we would see when we're finished. We're not quite done. We need to change from our cutting plane to our section view, or section layer, and create what's called a hatch pattern. And a hatch pattern, it just designates the material that you're cutting through. So imagine when you take something to a bandsaw and you cut through it and you look at your part, you may see little ridges. So what you'll see is we have some hatch patterns that will mimic what those ridges would look like. And again, it's representing material you're cutting through. So when I look through at this part here, I'm cutting through material here. So we can go ahead and put our hatch pattern here. Same thing, we're cutting through material here. So I can put my hatch pattern here. I'm not cutting through any material here because that's the hole, but I am cutting through material from the hole to our second hole here. And then lastly as well. And I'm going to have to change my scale on this as well. So that's why you want to make sure you always start with the correct drawing. Otherwise, you have to change a lot of items here. And that is our hatch pattern. So that's how you create a section view of your part.